Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Emily, also known as Emily the Mystic. If this is the first video that you are watching, I am an Akashic Records reader. I am an energy healer. I'm a spiritual and intuitive mentor and a past life regressionist. And in today's video, we are diving in deeply to talk about the witch wound and how it may be showing up for you in your own life, and also how to work through healing it as well. So if you have missed last week's video, I went in specifically to talk about what the witch wound is and how it affects us at a personal level and a collective level. And I talked about some historical references and where the witch wound really comes from to give you an overall background about what it is, because once you really understand what the witch wound represents, it can help you get more clarity around how it may be impacting you. And so I want you to make sure that you go back and watch that first video if you haven't yet, because again, there's so much important background information in there. But today we are going to be diving in again into talking about how the witch wound may be impacting you in your life. So we're talking about the 5 main ways that I see in my own life and in the lives of my clients that the witch wound can really show up, where those 5 main ways come from, what they're rooted in, and the different ways that they can show up in this reality, in this lifetime. Some of the more common examples of what to look out for. And then at the end, we'll be talking about my suggestions for you for how to use this information to help you on your healing journey. So let's dive in with number 1. So this is probably the overall way that the witch wound is affecting us, both at an individual level and at a collective level. And that is having a deep-rooted fear of being your true self. So if you watched last week's video, you will know that the witch wound is the persecution of women and the persecution of women being in power and the persecution of divine feminine energy. And so because of all of that and what may have happened in past lives, there can be a reluctance and a fear around being your true self in this lifetime that can show up in many areas of your life, which I'll get to in a moment. But where this fear of showing up as your true self can come from, of course, from past lifetimes where you were harmed, hurt, killed, persecuted, or outcasted for, again, being your true self. So whether that be because you were actually practicing witchcraft, or perhaps you were just seen as being this sort of fringe person within your community. Perhaps your hair was a different color, or you wore different kinds of clothes than everybody else did, or you had behaviors that were considered to be weird or bad or odd or different than everybody else. If you were seen as being bad or different for your religious beliefs, perhaps you practiced belief systems that were contrary to the main religion of the community that you lived in a past life. Perhaps you were harmed or hurt or even abused in your relationships for being different or for being seen as a witch. A lot of the time, and we'll talk about this in one of the other ways that the witch wound can show up, a lot of the time within our interpersonal relationships in past lifetimes, you may have had a sister or a friend or a family member who accused you of being a witch, or who accused you of using magic or being contrary to the local religion. And therefore, that can create a deep shame and a fear of showing up as your true self in this lifetime. Because if you've had a lifetime where you were harmed or jailed or hurt or persecuted for being yourself, for being even successful for being your true self, perhaps you had a business or you were well known in your community, the witch wound itself can block you from being successful and showing up as your true self in this lifetime as well. Some other ways, some other places that this can come from past lives. Perhaps you were abandoned or rejected by your family members, your family unit. Perhaps you were criticized or judged by other people within the community. Or perhaps you were outwardly, again, outcasted or pushed out or forced out of the place where you lived, and you quickly learned that your home was not safe for you and you couldn't live a life of security and comfort wherever you were from, and you were forced to live somewhere else. That can make it difficult for you to show up and be your true self in this lifetime. So here's how this fear of being your true self and shame around being yourself can show up in this particular lifetime. So if you are hiding in any areas of your life and you're not fully allowing yourself to be your true self, that is very likely a reflection of the witch wound in your own life. For example, if you know that your life purpose is to be this successful entrepreneur and you're here to be an artist and to create all of these things and to create a product line, but you're staying in your corporate career because it makes you feel safe and it makes you feel comfortable, that is absolutely a reflection of the witch wound showing up. Perhaps you're choosing the safe route within your career, or you're really hiding within your job or the career path that you've chosen in this lifetime because it feels comfortable and it feels safe. That is absolutely can be a reflection of the witch wound. I know for myself personally, I stayed in a corporate job way past my expiration date and my due date there. And for me, that was absolutely a way that the witch wound was showing up, and I was unhappy in that role as well. So if you are deeply unhappy and unsatisfied in whatever career or job or work that you are doing in your life, it's very likely that the witch wound could be the root cause of why you're there and why you feel like you can't leave and you can't escape from your job. There can be a deep-seated fear of something bad happening to you or happening to people in your family from leaving or doing something different or going against the grain with your career path. You may also be hiding within your relationships. So if you are choosing safe relationships, perhaps you continue to date the same person, same type of person because you see that type of personality as being safe and not triggering. That can be one way that this shows up. Perhaps you're not really being your true self in your current relationships. You're not expressing yourself, sharing your opinions, telling people stories, telling people about you, or even communicating at all within your relationships and your friendships. That can absolutely be a sign of the witch wound. Social anxiety, by the way, is a huge sign of the witch wound. We're going to get to that a little bit with one of the upcoming ways that the witch wound can be affecting you. So if you struggle to really be present in your relationships and to express yourself and your opinions and have conversation and have authentic conversation and be authentically you, perhaps you're telling everybody what you think they want to hear. Perhaps you feel like you're wearing a mask in your relationships. Perhaps you are people pleasing and telling people, giving people the side of you that you think is the most acceptable side. That is absolutely a way that the witch wound can show up. Perfectionism is a way that this can show up as well. So constantly having to put on this facade that you are perfect or your life is perfect, or really tightly holding on to control in your life around making sure that all of your T's are crossed and all of the things are checked off of your to-do list and all of your tasks are done perfectly and in perfect order. That can absolutely be a sign that the witch wound is showing up as well. You may also have poor boundaries within your relationships because of a deep-seated fear of conflict, again, because you were probably harmed, persecuted, or killed for being your true self in a past life. And it's really scary to express yourself, to tell people what you really think, to ask for what you need, and to express your opinions because of a fear of, well, if I do that, what are people going to abandon me? Am I going to get hurt? Am I going to get harmed? Am I going to get killed? For all of those different things, that can absolutely be a way that the witch wound shows up. If you have trouble expressing yourself, meaning dressing the way that you want to, or styling your hair the way that you want to, or being creative, and again, self-expression, that can absolutely be the witch wound showing up because you were harmed for being your true self. If you have trouble expressing your emotions, again, that avoidance of conflict, avoidance of telling people what you really think. If you feel disconnected from your emotions, you're afraid to let people see you sad or angry or rageful or any other emotions that you may be blocking. This may be unconscious, by the way. You may be suppressing your emotions unconsciously because your soul has decided that they are unsafe, and it is unsafe to feel some of those scarier emotions. That can absolutely be a result of the witch wound as well. And finally, if you're disconnected from your culture or your ancestral heritage in a way that makes you feel like you can't authentically be you, then that can absolutely be a way that this witch wound is showing up for you. So for me personally, again, I stayed in a corporate job way too long, even though I knew that I was meant to be doing something else with my life, that I was meant to be taking a more non-traditional path, a more entrepreneurial path. I stayed in a corporate job for a while. And for my clients, I see that really showing up as staying in a really safe career or a safe work path, or staying even in relationships past their due date. Also, I have a lot of clients who are entrepreneurs, and this can show up as not authentically expressing themselves online. So if you are, again, if you're afraid to share what you really think, or to show pictures of yourself wearing the crazy, cool, fun clothes that you love to wear, or sharing your taste in music, or some of the quirkier, more different things about you, which, by the way, are the coolest parts about you, then that can absolutely be your witch wound showing up. Because the more that you heal your witch wound, especially around being your true self, the more free you're going to feel to show up authentically in all areas of your life. So with this one, I really want you to take a look at, where do I feel like I'm hiding in my life from being my true self? Do you feel like you're not living where you want to live? Do you feel like you're not wearing what you want to wear, or working where you want to work, or being the person that you know that you are? That is absolutely a reflection of the witch wound. So lots of things for you to think about there. Getting to number two, the number two way that the witch wound can show up is a fear of speaking your truth and being seen for who you really are. So this is similar to a fear of being your true self. However, this is more of the fear of being visible and being seen and expressing yourself through your speech and the things that you do in the world. So this fear of speaking your truth and being seen, again, this is going to come from all of those lifetimes where you were persecuted for speaking up or speaking out or speaking your truth. So perhaps you were a witch in a past lifetime and you told off the local government and you said, like, I'm not going to stand for this, I'm going to leave town, and then something bad happened to you. Or perhaps you tried to express your opinions through sharing your story with a local newspaper, or you were a journalist and you tried to share your opinions on a topic with your community that was contrary to the local beliefs. This can absolutely create this block around a fear of sharing your truth in this lifetime and being seen for your opinions in this lifetime. It is also possible that you may have had lifetimes where you were on the other side of the aisle. Perhaps you were the perpetrator and you were falsely accusing people of being witches or falsely persecuting others. It is possible that your soul may be carrying a lot of blame and shame around being on the other side of the aisle, and therefore a fear of doing that again in this lifetime, a fear of like sharing your authentic opinions because of what could happen, or doing bad things to other people, or being wounded again as a soul. Another thing that this can come from in terms of past lives is if you tried to speak to somebody in your life, like a family member, in order to try to help them or to save them or to save yourself, and somebody betrayed you or turned on you and you were harmed, hurt, or killed because of that, that can absolutely be blocking your ability to speak your truth in this lifetime. And finally, if you really tried to communicate to other people, but they didn't trust you, they didn't believe you, they betrayed you, they turned on you, they outcasted you, it may be really challenging for you to speak your truth in this lifetime. So here's how that can show up. So if this is affecting you, you may on some level feel like you need to maintain a very low profile, very private life. For me personally, before I started healing my witch wound, I was not on social media at all. I was like, no way, I don't want a public Instagram account. I don't want people to see pictures of me or to read about my opinions on things. Absolutely no thank you, which is so contrary to what my soul is here to do. And it even felt weird to me in some way to show up that way in my life. But until I healed my witch wound, I wasn't comfortable having a business social media account or posting my beliefs and my opinions for the public eye and for other people to read them and receive them. So you may, especially for my entrepreneurs out there, have trouble showing up on social media. And social media is this amazing like free business card that we have access to. It's free advertising. So if you're not taking advantage of it, if you're fearful of showing up, or if you just can't figure out what to say or have trouble even staying consistent, posting consistently, that can absolutely be an expression of the witch wound and a fear of speaking your truth. If you are a creative person in general and you're feeling creatively blocked around your writing or your art, and again, self-expression here, that can absolutely be a reflection of the witch wound blocking you from being able to do so. If you have issues with public speaking or being on stage, being the center of attention, I once did a reading for somebody who in the past life, they were a stage performer and people were literally throwing tomatoes at them on stage. That can absolutely be a way that the witch wound shows up and blocks you from being able to perform, be on stage, share your work, share your opinions, your truth with other people. If you know that you need to be more in the public eye for the job that you have or the work that you do, or you're desiring more visibility, but you feel like no matter what, you can't get your message out there, no one's seeing it, no one's hearing it, you're not attracting the visibility opportunities that you want, like podcast interviews or speaking gigs or write-ups in online blogs and articles and so forth, that can absolutely be a way that the witch wound is blocking you as well. For me, I really had a block around my throat chakra and being able to physically speak. When I worked in my corporate job and I would go to introduce myself, I literally couldn't say a word. That's how bad it was for me. But once I started to heal my witch wound, all of that went away. And now I can make great videos like this for you to watch. Social anxiety is definitely a way that this can show up as well. So if you are afraid to like speak in front of groups or even have a small group conversation or show up as your true self authentically, again, this really wraps up, relates to number one, the deep-seated fear of being yourself, but this is more of the self-expression and communication piece of it. If you also constantly fear judgment or criticism, let's say you fear trolls online posting bad comments about you or hate towards you, or you're afraid that somebody's gonna defame your name in the local paper, or have weird fears about somebody using your name against you, or spreading lies about you or betraying you in some way in a very public way, that can absolutely be a reflection of the witch wound for sure. And finally, if you feel like you're trying your best to share your truth, speak your truth, you've gotten so far as to have the social media accounts and be sharing your work with the world, but no one's listening, you feel like you're speaking to a brick wall, no one's hearing what you have to say, you have trouble attracting clients or people into your life that you know that you need in order to gain success, then that can absolutely be a reflection of the witch wound. The number 3 way that the witch wound can show up in your life is a disconnection from your intuition and your personal power. So if you were persecuted in a past life, again, for being a witch, for doing magic of some kind, it can make your soul really fearful of connecting with your intuition in this lifetime because it sees your intuition as being unsafe. And therefore, your soul may be hesitant to allow you full access to your intuitive gifts and your ancient wisdom and powers from other lifetimes. Perhaps you even actually were a witch in a past life, and perhaps you did spell work or black magic or any type of witchcraft that was harmful to other people, that had negative repercussions for you in a past life or for the people around you. That can also make it difficult for you to connect to your intuition in this lifetime. If you were persecuted for your religion, or if you were on the other side of the aisle, if you persecuted other people for being witches, there could be some guilt and some shame around that, some imposter syndrome, and it may be challenging for you to connect to your intuition in this lifetime. If you were harmed, hurt, or killed for being in your power in a past life, maybe you were really successful, you were a successful medicine man or woman, or you were a really successful local healer or doula, or somebody who really helped others in different ways in a past life, and you were successful for doing that, it can make it difficult for you to connect to your own inner power and wisdom and your intuition in this lifetime as well. Some other ways too, if you were very intuitive in a past life and it led you to predicting something that ended up happening, and perhaps you didn't tell people about it and that bad thing happened, that can also lead to intuition blocks in this lifetime. Or perhaps you didn't tell any people about your prediction and bad things happened. That can absolutely lead to intuition blocks in this lifetime as well. Or perhaps your intuitive and psychic gifts led you to being institutionalized or being seen as crazy in a past life. Perhaps you even felt crazy in a past life because you had a lot of visions or clairvoyant sight, or you saw ghosts or spirits and it really freaked you out in a past life. You may be really blocking your intuition in this lifetime as well. So one thing that's really deeply connected to this disconnection from your intuition is the fear of being seen as crazy, or being seen as this like crazy woo-woo type of person. Again, this also links back to a fear of being your true self. But if you have this deep-seated fear of like people thinking that you're crazy, then that can really block your intuition and your intuitive gifts from coming in this lifetime as well. So some other things that can happen, that may have happened to you in a past life. You could have been experimented on or watched or even locked up or jailed for your psychic and your intuitive gifts. For me, I had a lifetime where I had really intense visions, and my father in that lifetime locked me up in an attic space and would watch me and keep an eye on me, but wouldn't interact with me. So it made me kind of feel like a zoo animal in a lot of ways, like this experiment, this crazy person. And for me in this lifetime, it's made me deeply afraid of people watching me or experimenting on me, or being seen as crazy by other people or even my own family members. So that can be another way that this shows up, and it can block your intuition from coming in this lifetime as well. Some other ways that this can show up, if you are so disconnected from your intuition that you really only make decisions from your logical mind, from your mental body, you're making your pros and cons list, and you're never able to trust and surrender and make an intuitive decision that you know that would lead to your success, that can absolutely be coming from the witch wound. If you're afraid of the unknown, getting out of your comfort zone, trying new things, and making intuitive decisions because of all of that, that can definitely be coming from the witch wound for sure. If you have a hard time trusting in yourself, that is an intuitive block, and that can be coming from your witch wound. And also, finally, if you have a deep-seated fear of the spirit world, fear of demons or negative energies, and that's all you focus on, and you really perpetuate fear around that, you talk about it all the time, you worry about it all the time, that can really disconnect you from your intuition and your power in this lifetime. And that is coming likely from your witch wound, and perhaps even doing darker work in a past life, or perhaps having religious trauma and a lot of religious programming that was very anti-dark energy or black magic or witchcraft in general. By the way, witchcraft doesn't necessarily mean black magic, by the way, but just your soul may have had an experience where you may even have been harmed by witchcraft in another lifetime, or have had negative repercussions for practicing magic. There's so many different ways that this can show up. Okay, the number 4 way that the witch wound can show up in your life is if you are not stepping into your full potential in this lifetime, meaning that there are major blocks to money and success on your path in this lifetime. So perhaps you're not fully stepping into your life purpose, or perhaps you have stepped into your life purpose, but you're not seeing the traction or the success or the money and abundance that you want. All of that can absolutely be a reflection of the witch wound in your life. So we've talked about so many ways that this can come from, whether that be dying at the height of your success in a past life, or being harmed, hurt, killed, or persecuted for being your true self, or being a witch, for being a woman, for being successful, for being in your power, and perhaps there was somebody in the past life who didn't like that you were in your power and wanted to take that away from you. All of that can absolutely block you from being in your full potential in this lifetime. So here are some ways that can show up. So we talked about fear of stepping into your purpose. This can also show up as imposter syndrome. So if you constantly worry that you're not qualified enough, you're not good enough, who would want to work with me, and feeling like you're not in the right place, even though you're qualified, even though you know that you are on paper, that can absolutely be a reflection of the witch wound. If you're constantly fearing failure and fearing taking risks and them going all wrong, or something crazy happened, perhaps you're constantly fearing that the other shoe is going to drop, that you're going to lose it all, that can absolutely be coming from a past life. You may have had all of your wealth taken away from you in a past life. You may have lost everything, your home, your safety, your family, your security, for being accused of being a witch, or for being accused of being a woman, or something similar to what we've been talking about today in this video. If you, within your career, your work life, have very low self-esteem, low confidence about yourself and your gifts and your abilities, that can absolutely come from the witch wound. If you're not fully connected to your power within your work, this is more applicable to entrepreneurs, by the way, that can absolutely be coming from the witch wound. If you feel like you have a lot of blocks around money and success in general, you don't feel worthy of it, You don't feel deserving of it. You don't feel like it's flowing the way that you want it to. You can't hold on to it. Again, you're constantly worried that something bad is going to happen. All of that can be coming from the witch wound and from past lives. Okay, and also if you can't stay consistent with your work, let's say you're trying to start a business, you can't show up consistently, you're constantly putting it off or avoiding it or doing other things, that can absolutely be coming from the witch wound as well. And finally, the number 5 way that the witch wound can show up in your life is lone wolf syndrome and being isolated from other people. So a lot of the time with what happened with the witch wound, people, women specifically, were either outcast, isolated, removed from the family unit. Families were separated. Mothers were separated from their children. People within even witch covens were separated. Sisters were pitted against each other. Women were pitted against each other. Women were accusing other women. All of that can create a fear of community in this lifetime. So that may show up for you as hyper independence in this lifetime and a fear of accepting help and support and feeling undeserving of help and support. So perhaps you're fiercely independent. You do everything yourself. You're a perfectionist. You don't want anybody else to help you. You feel bad asking other people for help. And you want to try to do it all yourself. That absolutely can be coming from the witch wound. If you have trouble attracting like-minded friendships and people into your life, if you have had trouble with friendships your whole life in general, perhaps you've always been kind of like a lone wolf, maybe you've drifted between friend groups for most of your life and you've never really had consistent, strong, stable friendships, that can absolutely be a reflection of the witch wound. I know for myself personally, when I was growing up, I always had like friends over here and friends over there and a couple of really good friends, but no one that I really felt like who got me, authentically Emily. Ooh, as I say that, there's like a feather floating towards me. That was so weird. And now, since I've been doing some work around healing my witch wound, I've attracted a lot of like-minded people and business connections and friendships and partners and so forth into my life that feel so aligned and that make me feel really seen for being my true self. So if you feel like you have a hard time attracting like-minded friends or a community or other spiritual people into your life, that can absolutely be a reflection of the witch wound. If you feel mistrustful of people, perhaps you have a deep-seated fear of abandonment, rejection, or people betraying you, that can be the witch wound showing up. And finally, if you have a little bit of jealousy of other people, if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people and their success, specifically women, if you are a woman, that can 100% be the witch wound showing up. So there's so many ways that the witch wound that can show up. This is not an all-inclusive list, so there's definitely a lot more that can be said here, but these for me are the main ways that they've shown up in my own life and in the lives of my clients. So I want you, as you have received this whole list here, to really feel into which ones really are lighting up the most for you. Where are you feeling them in your body? Where do you feel triggered? Which ones are you like, ooh, oh my gosh, that's me, or I know that happened to me, or I see that within myself in my life in this lifetime. Those are the areas where you really want to focus your healing work and your healing journey. So let's talk a little bit about how to heal from the witch wound. So the first thing that I recommend is past life work. So that is what I do that's the majority of the work that I do with my clients is focused around past lives, traveling back in time to their past lives that have really deeply affected them in this lifetime. So working with me or another dedicated past life practitioner to get to the root of what happened really brings your soul a deep-seated sense of healing and comfort and knowing like, okay, I know this happened to me. It's not happening again in this lifetime. I am safe. I have a stable home, stable living situation. I know I'm not going to get killed or burned at the stake again again in this lifetime, knowing, again, that can really help your soul to feel more at peace. It can help release anxiety or stress or fear or worry about any of the things that we've talked about today. So doing the past life work, you can absolutely do it on your own by doing a past life meditation. I have a meditation library on my website where there's a great past life meditation in there. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. So you can do this on your own time. But if you have trouble visualizing or you're nervous about doing this on your own or you're afraid that you could fall asleep, I would definitely encourage you to work with a practitioner because they'll really be able to help you. It's harder to do it on your own. The second way that I recommend working through your witch wound is to really spend some time journaling about all of these different things I've talked about today to see which ones really feel like they're affecting you the most. Like, is it your social circles and your friend groups? Is that really bothering you? And where do you think that's coming from? Or do you feel really stressed that you can't fully show up as your true self in your work or in your relationships? So doing some journaling around that. Journaling puts us into a hypnotic brainwave state, and that can help new things be unlocked. So you may find yourself having some insights, some awarenesses, and that can help you to heal from your witch wound as well. But definitely the combination of both the past life work and the journaling with a dedicated practitioner can really help you to heal from the witch wound. The third way to heal from the witch wound is to spend some time connecting with your intuition and making more intuitively based decisions. So we've talked about how the witch wound can block you from your intuitive gifts in this lifetime. So learning more about your intuition and your psychic gifts. I've got a lot of videos about that here on my YouTube channel. I've got a great course on intuition on my website. So check that out. That may be a really cool way for you to connect with your third eye, connect with your psychic and intuitive gifts. And that is so applicable to all areas of your life because having your intuition online can help you with decision making. It can help you move forward in your life and know where you're going and feel so clear on your path and your purpose. So definitely connecting with your intuition is huge. Number 4, identify through the journaling exercises that I've shared where you are hiding in your life and where you can be more of your true self and then take action towards this. Now, I know this is easier said than done, but in what small ways can you be more of your true self in your life? For example, let's say you have a new friendship and you haven't really told them about your love of this specific genre of music that you like listening to. Perhaps you tell your new friend about your love of music. Or perhaps you always dress in neutral colors, but there's a part of you that loves when people dress in bright, sunshiny rainbow colors. Maybe you start dressing in brighter colors. Or maybe you, if you're an entrepreneur and on social media, maybe you change your branding a little bit to shift more into something that's more authentically you. That may look different than what other people are doing or what like social media managers would recommend that you do. So maybe you try being more of your true self on social media or getting on your stories and talking about what's going on with your day. So this can start in little ways, and those little ways add up to big decisions and big life shifts and big changes, because I guarantee you the more that you become and act and be your true self in your daily life, it gets addictive. And then you're like, wait a second, this feels so good. This feels so comfortable. I don't want those friendships that feel inauthentic. I don't want to feel like I have to wear a mask around these people. I don't want to have to act a certain way, in front of specific people in my life. And then those big decisions become so easy and second nature with time. Number 5 way to work on healing your witch wound is to reach out and connect with more of the women in your life. If you identify as a woman, perhaps really fostering your female friendships. If you don't have a lot of friendships in your life, set the intention and ask spirit, ask the universe to bring them to you and do some healing work around why you feel like you don't have the friendships that you want. But if you do already have friendships, reach out to people, ask them to go out for coffee with you, or plan a friend date over the weekend, or a fun dinner out, or something that feels good. I feel like because of the pandemic, we are all wanting to get out and be out more and more, but sometimes we just need an invitation to do that. So reach out to people, ask them for an in-person connection to do something. I've made friends through Instagram that I've invited to do things in person, and those have become really great lifelong friendships for me. So reach out to your female friends. If you do not identify as a female, reach out to the women in your life. Foster more connections with all of the beautiful divine feminine energy in your life, and also just foster your friendships in general, because human beings are not meant to be lone wolves. We're not meant to be solo, lone creatures. We are meant to live in community and be in partnership in different ways, not just romantic partnership, but partnership in different ways in our lives. So the more that we can do that, the more we can heal from the witch wound. And finally, number 6, Number 6, way to heal from the witch wound is to talk about it. Tell other people about it. Share this video with your friends. The more that we do our own individual healing, the more that we can help the collective heal. It's so, so, so important, and will help us to move through crazy stuff that's happening in our world and our government, like Roe versus Wade, like we talked about in the last video. So the more that you can do, again, to help yourself to heal, the more that effect ripples outwards to everybody else in the collective. So that is my spiel on the witch wound today and how it may be impacting you in your life and how to heal from it. I hope this helped you. Make sure you leave a comment below if this video resonated with you. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already. Like this video if it helped you, and I cannot wait to see you in the next video. Enjoy your day.